Today on this final episode of Masters of Innovation, we're at the Holiday Inn Rivonia Road in Sandton, located in the heart of Gauteng's corporate, financial and shopping mecca. We're way up on the 9th floor in the Sky Bar with its gorgeous panoramic views of Sandton. The Holiday Inn Sandton is the perfect stopover in Johannesburg for any business or leisure guest. The lobby features glittering handmade chandeliers and a 10-meter-long fireplace where one can relax and surf the complimentary wireless internet available to all guests. Within the lobby is the Chairman's Bar, the perfect spot to grab a hot cup of coffee and a delicious fresh pastry before you start your day. Indulge in a full hotel continental buffet breakfast at the Lettuce and Lime restaurant, or enjoy a delectable meal from the a la carte menu paired with a bottle from their extensive wine list. The 9th floor also boasts a luxurious pool area and a fully facilitated gym. Their state-of-the-art conferencing facilities and professional service combine to make this Sandton Hotel one of the most sought-after conference and meeting venues in the area. Today on Masters of Innovation, our guests include Sibuli Ope, Edith Nkobo, Carla Jones, and Nick Ray. Your hosts are Taryn Samantha Dredge and Nozipho Mbanjwa.
Welcome to another episode of Masters of Innovation. My name is Nozipho Mbanjwa and I'm thrilled to be back on the show. I missed one show, so I'm suffering from a little bit of FOMO, so I'm trying to make up for it. But as always on the show, I'm never alone, and today Taryn joins us. And I know, Taryn, this is not your first time on the show, but Taryn is a digital manager at Huawei. Just a quick one on the context. Of course, we are looking at the impact of technology on social media, and when you even put that together, you almost say, well, is there social media without technology? And so when you think about just the topic, you think, is it even possible to have a conversation about social media that is exclusive of technology? And so we know that the conversation is dynamic, and it's an evolving conversation that we're having. And so we're going to go around the table and get an opportunity to introduce each of ourselves and just a basic statement of how you've seen technology and social media intersecting in the space that you're in. But before we do that, the most important introduction to make sure that we have a good meal and good drinks. Over to Lars.
Thank you very much. My name is Lars. I'm the food and beverage manager at the hotel. I have for today, I've got a lovely treat for you. I've paired two lovely wines. A white wine, which is a Horse Mountain Chenin Blanc Viognier. Chenin Blanc being a nice and easy drinking wine with simplicity, and on the other hand, the Viognier grade being more complex aromas. It's a lovely, easy drinking wine. It's ripe peaches, ripe pear aromas coming through. And then on the red wine, I've got a special Tsogo auction wine for you, which is Cape Winemakers Guild, the Australian family. It is a Paragon wine. It is a blend consisting of Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Merlot. It has got your flavors of your deep red berries, red cherries, blueberries. It's got a nice dry aftertaste of it, which I can definitely recommend. And then for your dessert, I've got a lovely treat. I've got a 2004 Fluted Cup Botrytis dessert wine, which is a Noble 8, which will go superb with your dessert.
It's quite an honor to be sitting in this table with all you lovely people, talking about our favorite thing to do, which is technology, social media. We live there every day. But I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm a social entrepreneur in the manner that I run a non-profit organization. I work with kids in high schools. I work with kids in varsities. I'm an entrepreneur as well. I'm on my 6th startup company, and I'm also an entertainer. Yeah, I host a show here on the channel, CNBC Africa, and I also have got a breakfast show which is syndicated on multiple radio stations.
Fantastic. And of course, there is one identity that we're all still wanting to know.
Come on, you know what I mean? Come on.
Are you Zaka or not?
Of course not, no.
Hi, I'm Carla. I'm the CEO of Novotopia. We are a strategic consulting firm. We help a lot of companies and agencies with their online marketing, their digital marketing, social media. And before that, I was at Investec, doing a lot of their social media, seeing DJ Sibu's name quite often when you're talking to kids about who's your role model. Yeah. Always came up, which is great.
Yeah, my name's Nick Ray. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Brandseye. I'm also one of the founders and shareholders of that company. My background is actually in advertising and digital marketing. But today I'm involved in this company that's kind of shaking the world at the moment in terms of how we've applied our technology to understanding human conversation, particularly in social media. And we, that's been an amazing road for us from last year when we were kind of not well known, certainly outside of South Africa, and today we've kind of been on the world stage after calling both Brexit and the Donald Trump election when most people thought the other outcome was going to happen.
Hi guys, I'm Edith. Before I continue, you guys nailed the local government elections because we used your data on CNBC Africa, and people are like, no, it's not going to change. And I was like, no, social media is telling us something different. We will have a new party in Joburg and in Pretoria. I do a lot of content for social media, and we actually use a lot of technology to guide us onto how we're going to sell products on social media. But other than that, I'm in the social media and news space. I fell in love with social media from a news point a couple of years ago when one of our editors at the time said, each and every single one of you in this newsroom is going to be on Twitter. Yes. We all argued, we said we don't have time, it's broadcasting, it's 30-minute deadlines, and she said, guys, people will want to know what's happening on your stories on Twitter. You guys will register and you guys will work. And I've pretty much been in social media and news since, and I love that space.
Basically, I come from the States where I am fortunate to say I was one of the first people on Facebook. So one of the early adopters, and I think everything has kind of evolved from there. Moving to South Africa where we still didn't have a digital footprint, and starting from scratch has been quite an exciting journey where digital or social used to be a video. We want to make everything go viral, and I think that was the key word coming from every company, let's go viral, and how that it still is. And how the landscape of social media has changed brands' perspectives, where brands are no longer pushing messages, but you rather have to be invited into a consumer's living room.
Let's maybe just take account of where we are. I must say, without revealing my age, being born in the mid-80s, I'm almost at a space where I feel like I'm constantly being left behind in social media and always trying to catch up. Just as I was getting into Instagram and Twitter and all of these things, suddenly there was Snapchat, and suddenly this was now the new way that we're supposed to communicate. Am I the only one who's just feeling like the pace of technological change in the social media space is just dizzying?
I think we're a bit stuck in between being a millennial and something else.
But you don't have to be everywhere though. You don't have to be on Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook and. So you don't have to constantly go with those trends.
So what's the advice that you would give to somebody who probably has this dilemma of being pulled in different directions and not feeling that you have enough of a visibility on all of them?
I think a lot of brands have that issue in terms of not knowing where to go. Should they go on Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat or Instagram or Pinterest or wherever they want to be? And then it comes to monitoring tools like Brands Eye, for instance, and we also, and that's why you said we're competitors, we also have the South African rights for Systemus, which is a global online reputation management tool. But you listen first, you see first where people are hanging out, and then based on that, where your target audience is, that's the channels you're going to choose. So in your case, you would actually look at, what do I want to do from a social media perspective? Am I into puppy videos, or am I into...
But trends move on quickly though. As she's saying, like you want to be where people are hanging out, and those can be the trendsetters and the cool kids, or maybe celebrities. And once you get on there, and then they've moved on to Snapchat. But I tried Snapchat, and I didn't like Snapchat. I was like, I'll get into it later. Until Mark Zuckerberg started his own
and then you're like, I need to Snapchat.
Insta stories?
Yes.
No, but I didn't go to Snapchat. I stuck with my Instagram.
You jumped Snapchat altogether?
I didn't. I opened my Instagram, my Snapchat account. For some reason, it was difficult for me to maneuver around it. And then I left. I wasn't often on it. And then when I found out that there was the Insta stories, which is similar to Snapchat, then that's what I use.
So guys, you have to educate me. I don't know what an Insta story is.
So Instagram stories is their
Oh, so the Instagram videos?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
They're kind of this idea of ephemeral media, right, where it doesn't last forever. In the case of Instagram stories, the videos last for 24 hours. And what's interesting is that while Snapchat has been doing this for a very long time, well, relatively long time in social media years, Instagram Stories only launched a year ago and is already 2/3 the size of the total Snapchat.
But they've got Facebook behind them.
They do, and I think Snapchat is going to feel a lot of pressure from Instagram Stories because their overall audience is really much bigger than Snapchat. I think to kind of answer or give my view on your question, the question is whether you are trying to build an audience or you're trying to consume news and information. You know, I personally, my use of social media is more about information digestion rather than trying to put stuff out there. And you know, a brand wants to put stuff out there, and
they want to influence.
And celebrities and influencers and so on want to put stuff out there, and then you want to match to where your audience is. If you're trying to reach millennials, then you better get your ass onto Snapchat.
I'm an information junkie. I take in information, and I like news. So I find that LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter for on-the-go reporting works for me.
So you're also saying that be selective about the platform that works for you, focus on that particular platform, and jump the ones that don't speak to you. But I want to go back to that jump. Do we make that jump and the decision to skip a particular platform because the technology underpinning it doesn't work for you?
I think it's different strokes for different folks. There's certain, I'll make you an example, for instance, as I was making an example, about Snapchat, that I just didn't, for me, I didn't find it easy to maneuver around and use it. I found Instagram very easy for me to get used to it and use it. I found Facebook as a neighborhood that I'd visit once in a while, but it's like my home. I think it's a location, you know, you go and visit and, but you do update, but you're never really there. But I live a lot on Twitter and Instagram.
And it is quite scary as a brand to choose your platforms, because if you look at the staying power of certain platforms and just what has happened in the 10 years, we've had platforms that have died. So where do you invest as a brand? Because you see the changing power of what Facebook has done, what Instagram has done. But at the end of the day, where has Mixit gone? What is it that they didn't do or didn't get right? MySpace. If you look at the first one, I think it was 6 Degrees of Separation, which was Kevin Bacon's idea, I think it was, and that was a social media platform, and I think that was one of the first. And that died in 2 years. Where do we go next? I mean, is there going to be another platform? Now, as a brand, do we invest this year on this platform, and then all of a sudden, no, this platform's bigger? Where do you put your money in? And that
But you also need to look at where you're going to make an impact. So as a brand, as much as you want to reach people, you want to engage with people, you're also still trying to make money. I mean, your end goal is to get more devices in people's hands. From year on year on year. So where are you going to influence them the most?
Let's follow the money trail, because I think for me this is at the core of the business behind social media. I mean, in South Africa we recently had the big blow up of paid Twitter. The fact that people who have lots of followers are actually paid to actually tweet and to begin to begin certain trends and to get things trending. Now for me this kind of murkies the water a little bit, because I'm not really sure who actually has influence and how much of that influence is bought influence versus I'm actually being followed by people who actually who identify or resonate with the brand and the values that I'm living. How does it work? A brand approaches you and do they say, okay, we're going to pay you per tweet.
So what happens is, I was actually having a chat with somebody before we came into this lunch, and we're having a chat about you used to, so I've got a marketing company as well. So we used to pitch to clients campaigns, and clients would, they'd be used to old traditional ways of how things are done and what they pay for what. They work with agencies that do media buying for them. They're going to advertise on radio, TV, etc. We used to pitch digital marketing. And they used to say no. They used to just see you as a nice to have. But right now, there's companies that strictly do digital marketing. So when you pitch, most of the budgets right now are going, or let me say half-half. Digital marketing takes up half of most companies' budgets because that's where most people are. But myself as an individual or as an entertainer,
Celebrity.
I'm not a celebrity. Do you like
you don't have a lot of followings and you're not a celebrity. It's okay.
It's not a lot, right? Yeah. But I mean, it's a company comes and they say we want for you.
Let's give the company a tampon company comes. Yeah. I really want to practically.
I could have gone for a different example, but let's stick to tampons.
It's a good example.
A tampon company comes.
It's a good example,
and they say that one, we want to grow our consumer base amongst women, but we also want men to get on board in terms of buying for wives, sisters, supporting initiatives, and so we actually think we're gonna be groundbreaking and innovative. We're gonna get DJ Spoo to tweet and be on this particular campaign. How do you respond?
You find a lot of companies come and say, we would like for you to do billboards for us, we want to do a commercial, blah, 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 and then they want you to charge them for billboard, for ad, for radio, voiceover, etc., etc. But not a lot of companies would say just for tweets.
Yeah.
But I have gotten those as well. But
So
I will charge. Yeah, it's part of a package.
How much do you charge per tweet?
I don't have a standard figure that I would charge per tweet, but I want to hear your entire campaign. Because me, I've got a company as an entrepreneur. I want to get your entire budget. I don't just want to get the money for tweeting.
Yeah. Okay.
But I will help you also to get other influencers whom you are going to pay for tweeting.
So you as an influencer, do you say no to brands if you don't believe it fits into your vision?
I never say no to money.
I love
find
that.
a way.
I love that.
I find a way in which to make it work.
But I think there's a much more darker and nefarious side to paid Twitter, where, you know, we've seen recently in the news that there's a whole big paid Twitter following that has been used by the South African government, by the Jacob Zuma and his cronies to undermine state institutions, to undermine our finance minister, and to distribute fake news. And I think that is a use of social media that we've seen a lot more of, where there is money exchange in hands, but it's not been done to promote a product or a service, but is grown to
it's
drive.
like a weapon in a
weapon.
war, essentially. But do we know how big and this is? I mean, relative to the normal Twitter community, how prominent and how big is this? It's another weapon of war in essence, but how prominent
look,
is it?
it's a big deal. I think it's, I can't give you exact numbers, but certainly it's been a major factor in the recent news stories around, as I said, our finance minister, Pharaoh Haffajee has been attacked a lot through the paid Twitter network. So it's definitely happening in our country and it is driving political agenda. But I also think if you look at the US election, there was a huge amount of paid social media that was disseminating fake news, but with the aim of building an election platform for Donald Trump.
The issue for me there with Twitter is that we don't always check the credibility of the source. So because you're following somebody, so say I'm following DJ Spoo and DJ Spoo says, XYZ celebrities died, and I find him a credible person, I'm going to retweet it and say, oh my God, XYZ person has died. But we're not verifying those stories. And I think that's what happens with the fake news as well. We read one news line, because you've got the 140 characters minus whatever the bit.ly link is going to be. We retweet that, we engage with it, we then share it offline with other people to say, have you heard? But we don't check it. And I think as human beings, we're not putting enough emphasis on whether the source we're getting the news from is actually credible or not.
And it's not just, consumers. It's newsrooms where journalists are coming out and saying, well, sometimes we're going to tweet it because we don't want to be beaten by Nosy.
Exactly.
Or News Channel C. So we're going to tweet it and check facts later, which is a bit of a problem for me because I've been writing on that for 30 minutes and then 30 minutes later you're going to come tell me that actually, it's not real.
So speed is more important than truth, and that's often been described now as we operate in this post-truth world.
We're all publishers around this table, whether we've got a big following on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or wherever it may be or not. Yeah. We're all publishers. So if I want to publish today that Skybar was absolutely fantastic, I can do so. But nobody's gonna check it.
Yeah, except for Skybar.
Except for Skybar, they'll probably retweet it.
Well, most democracies in the world today hold freedom of speech as one of their highest tenets. And so I don't see a world where, certainly in democratic countries, there's going to be an enormous amount of censorship of mainstream media. And if the Trump administration were to attempt that, I think it would be very bad for them. But so the alternative is to create a sense of doubt about the veracity of their news, and that is what he's doing incredibly effectively.
There is a contest for share of voice between mainstream media and social media. I'm bewildered as to why they can't almost coexist. Because if we have multiple platforms, we have a great opportunity to cross-check the credibility of what we're hearing. I don't understand what's at the core of the war between mainstream and social media.
So
There shouldn't be a war.
I don't think there is a war. No. I think social media is a platform for mainstream media just as it is for a platform for a politician. And most of the big media outlets are very good at operating across multiple social media platforms. So I don't think there's a contest there. I think there's a contest around what makes a story and whether truth is an important factor in a story. And clearly...
And who determines the truth.
And who determines the truth. And then, I think very importantly, what will be the behaviors from the viewership or the audience that are generated by viewing that content, whether it's true or not.
On the back of that consumption.
Right.
But it's up to the people engaging the content, engaging with the content and viewing the content and reading it to make sure that they verify the facts first. Yeah. So like you were saying with the news, because you don't have you have 30 minutes to retweet it, so you need to quickly write something just to find out then that it's fake news. It shouldn't be like that. Like
it shouldn't, but the reality is your average 19-year-old doesn't spend a lot of time verifying the story.
Yeah. I know.
And so I would love that to be the case, where people apply proper
but that's where education comes in. I mean, if you've got a 90-year-old now deciding that whatever he reads on Twitter must be true because it's on Twitter, those are your future CEOs, COOs, employees, and you don't want them to apply those same measurements in 5 years' time. You want to educate them now to say not everything you read is true. This is how you verify things. So as much as we teaching youngsters to protect themselves online, which I think is happening a lot more in schools, we also need to teach them how to verify things.
But in an age of big data, and in an age where it's almost difficult to put up any barriers that stop your personal information from being shared, and everybody literally has access to where you are, what you're doing, what you like, what you don't like. It almost sounds like we're already there, and that we're already in a big scary space where technology has maybe to some extent enabled a world where privacy no longer exists. I almost feel like we're post-privacy.
There is definitely that privacy issue, but it also depends on what you share and what you don't share. But it's no longer just the words. So technologies that Nick was speaking about as well, that it's not just the words anymore that they're picking up. They're picking up photos. So if DJ Sabu is having a Red Bull outside here in the parking lot now.
And more fire.
That's what I'm saying, Red Bull, it can be picked up and people will see that, and it can be shared to say, oh, well, he's got his own brand, but he's drinking a Red Bull.
Oh, okay.
That's why I use Red Bull. And that's what brands doing a lot now as well with image recognition, is that they actually see photos of, we're all drinking white wine, you're drinking red wine, I'm going to profile you based on the fact that you've got a glass of red wine. And what are you eating? So it's not just words anymore, it's every single image that you post.
On my feed on Facebook, I'm getting more of what I like and less of what I don't like. And I prefer it that way.
Well, that's already what's happening on Twitter, right?
I don't want what I don't want.
But that's why
you must bring everybody in. I'm going to keep quiet. We're going to bring Nick and bring Spoon.
So I think there's, I feel like I'm the voice of doom in this lunch, but I feel like yes, it's cool when you can do better targeted advertising or better targeted content based on a profiling or understanding of you and who you are on social media. That's cool because it knows that I like surfing, so it's going to show me more surfing stuff. That's great, right? But
for a brand.
For a brand, right? But now when you're talking about a bunch of millennials who I think it is in all of our best interest that they have a wide and diverse view of the world around them, right? But when Facebook's algorithm, its newsfeed algorithm, is designed to only show them what they are interested in and what they believe to be right or true, then you never get beyond your newsfeed bubble, right? Yeah. You are always within this frame of reference.
But isn't it the same thing that's happening with the mainstream media?
Well, in mainstream media, you do have a choice of which channel you turn on to. So yes,
It's
I
the
agree.
same. It's the same with social media. You've got a choice.
So I'm not actually arguing pro mainstream media versus social media. What I'm saying is that in a world of a curated news feed, where an algorithm is deciding what to show you based on what it thinks you support and like, you never get challenged for your views.
But that goes back to what DJ Spoo was saying as well, that if you tune into a certain channel on TV, you're going to get that as well. You're also going to get certain...
Exactly. I mean, the other day I was, having dinner with some ANC guys who were complaining about 702. They were saying they're consistently anti-government. And I'm like, but of course, they have to be critical to make government better. But they're like, but can we get like some of the things that government is doing right? But then I start thinking about it and I look, and actually there are other platforms in mainstream media that are really biased, that are pushing a propaganda. So it's the same thing, I think. A young
It's who you
person
follow.
Excuse me?
It's who you choose to follow.
But that's
you
the
know,
problem.
Exactly,
you
it's who you
will
choose to
go
But
follow,
for
where's
right?
the
It's who
editorial
you choose to
integrity in
follow.
all of that?
So-
But just for a second, entertain me for a second. If you go, and let's take the 702 example, because a couple of days ago, there was the Kolani Gwala versus Lumka Olifant saga that just blew up, right? So 702 is known as an English medium radio station. Lumka Olifant, spokesperson for the Minister Batabile Dlamini, calls in and decides that she's going to speak Zulu. Answer in Zulu, speak in Zulu. Kolani, by the way, is a Zulu-speaking person before he's an English-speaking person. And if you went to SABC, as an example, there was a very specific take on how this played out. If you went to ANN7, they had a very different view of how this played out. And even if you went to ENCA, they had a very different view of how this played out. My concern is that, yes, you have different channels that have different frames and interpretations, but at the center of it, where is the editorial integrity that should be the basis for each of the channels? You cannot decide that this is our lens, and therefore that's the color lens we're going to put against the story, and that's how we're going to tell it, if that's not a representative of the truth.
Where is the future of targeting and marketing? Because, as always, your social is a trend, your Facebook is a trend, your Google is a trend. Where is the next trend going into targeting your consumer?
So much of the world's population today expresses their views, their interests and their opinions about politics, about brands, about celebrities online. That is the platform in which they communicate their worldview. And I think it's really interesting for governments and for businesses and organizations to listen to that conversation and try to determine their strategy around how they can be more relevant and more useful to that audience based on what they are saying online, right? I would love it if Mr. Ramaphosa, our potential next president, was looking at what ANC members were saying online and trying to understand what should drive his campaign agenda based on what people actually care about.
So, Edith, just from a social listing perspective and from a PR guidance as well, because I don't think you can talk about social listening without getting the right messages across from a brand perspective. You know, you get the social listening report. Now you have to create a message as a brand to talk to the audience that's telling you this. What happens when you get it wrong?
That's a good question.
We have to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, you basically go back.
We have to go back to the drawing board because everything, and it takes time. So everything you've worked on, you put out there.
But it's not always going to work.
No one engages with you.
know that
So
with ads as well.
you have to go back to the drawing board.
It's interesting to think about social media as a global equalizer, right? Because I imagine your Instagram feed is following a bunch of your friends, some of your family, some of the people that you admire and are interested in South Africa, but I imagine at least half of the people you follow on Instagram are not South African. They're a global audience, right? And I think our children are going to grow up in a world where being South African or even being African is less relevant, right? You will because of global platforms like Facebook, and Twitter, you will have exposure and have influence from a Chinese celebrity to an American politician to a British radio personality. You know, that is a very cool thing about social media, that we don't have to define ourselves based on where we were born, but rather what we are interested in and what we believe to be our ambitions and what we want to achieve.
But your gaming platforms are like that as well. I mean, every game has got a social media platform built into it from a chat perspective. And you can nowadays, as a South African child, play with kids all over the world.
And I think it's amazing.
Engage and communicate. It's fantastic because you're learning different cultures, you're learning some sort of social behavior as to what to do, what not to do.
But are we forgetting that even as you become increasingly integrated into a global community, as a human being, you have a lens that you see the world through. And maybe that lens shifts. For example, I may see some things primarily as a woman, and other things I might understand primarily as a black person, and others it might be a combination of being a black woman. So I look at this as a black woman. So for example, think of the movie For Colored Girls. I want to watch that movie because I know that this is a story about black women in different contexts. And I respond to that product because I'm black and because I'm a woman. And so I'm not entirely sure that I would respond to every other movie that is out in the global space just because it's out there and it's interesting. It always comes back to my personal frame and the things that matter. And I think technology and big data is about, I hate to use this word, but capturing the personal frame.
For me, the next phase for technology is, we're all talking about the words you're using, but now look at the Instagram story, Insta story.
Yeah,
you just posted.
My first one. Yeah.
You haven't put any words there.
Yeah.
So next step is the image recognition. So what a lot of companies are doing in the States, for instance, especially like your McDonald's, which is really nice, is that they'll look for all the images online, publicly available of course, where you've got the McDonald's logo. And then they see, okay, if people are eating a Big Mac, they are drinking a Castle Light with it. Whilst if they're eating a something, they're eating a wine with it, and they're using that. Because with things like Instagram, people are no longer using words, so we can't pick that up through the normal channels anymore to say, this person is talking about X, Y, Z. But they will pick up products and images. And for me, that's where technology is going to go.
What I'd like to know is, how do they monitor the photos? You can't tell me there's people that are watching each and every photo.
No, it's software. So it's basically software where you upload either a logo or part of a logo or a font or an image.
So then what happens, like what you were saying right now, that now there's going to be softwares that can pick up brands. McDonald's, for instance, sees you drinking, eating a McDonald's with a more fire over there, and they pick it up, whatever. Now I'm speaking on a video, this is a video, and I'm mentioning the brand. What is it? Audio.
Yeah.
So,
but it's also just image, right?
Well, look, image recognition, voice to text, and if I can do voice to text, which I can, you guys use Google Now and Siri, right? I can go voice to text really easily, and if I can go voice to text, I can understand what are the terms you mentioned. You said the word McDonald's, you said the word fire, right? Okay. So I can, that's pretty easy to do from a technological perspective. I think the question is what you do with that information.
Exactly.
And I think from our company's perspective, what is, for us, the real challenge is there's this amazing burgeoning space of artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing is kind of the technical term for what you're talking about. How do I look at a human conversation, whether that's audio or written text, and truly understand what that person is saying?
I'm assuming if I was a brand, I'm competing for the share of voice per se, so I want people to be talking about me. But the second layer is what they're actually saying. Absolutely. And so we're saying that to some extent, the share of voice can be measured of technological.
Volume is easy.
Yeah, volume.
Right. Volume is basic,
And the stuff behind.
It's called a keyword match. You said Vodacom in your tweet or in your Facebook comment or in your blog post or in your news article. I can do a keyword search really easily. I could do a keyword search 10 years ago, right, and tell you that X number of mentions of Vodacom happened, right?
Yeah.
That's a very basic piece of information, but where it gets interesting is what are they talking about, and how do they feel, right? So
Wow, okay.
right, so the how do they feel, either their sentiment, whether they're negative or positive, is useful. So if you can say 80% of that volume was negative towards this brand or this celebrity or this politician, that's a degree of interest, right? We understand now we can split between positive and negative sentiment, and to do that accurately is difficult.
Yeah.
What's really difficult is to try to work out what the topic is, right? So you are negative towards Donald Trump, but because you have a view on immigration.
If you look at conversation trends and where they've gone because of social media and technology, people are not calling, people are not texting in the normal way. You're either getting Facebook on your wall or inboxed or
It's
WhatsApp.
irritating though to be on WhatsApp and you want to leave
Exactly.
a group and you can't leave
And
a
you
group
can't leave the
because they
group
want
because
to
the church mother is part of
I leave groups, just leave
So
me.
I really wanted to get
Just
hold of
leave
Nozi,
me.
and Nozi wasn't getting back to me on Facebook or WhatsApp. I'm going to call Nozi.
Yeah, but that's like your third or fourth.
But it
once
depends.
I'm like, I'm happy to
No,
not be
it depends
found for
how
a
good
day.
your relationship is with people. Like certain.
No, it doesn't.
No,
It does.
When you've got
WhatsApp.
5,000 friends on Facebook, there is no good relationship
No,
there. You
but if
probably have
I've
a
got
good relationship with
5,000
10.
friends and I see certain friends once a week, and something happens to those friends, I'm not going to leave a message on the Facebook to say, "Oh, shame, sorry."
No,
really
you
bad."
inbox.
Like
You inbox.
No, you phone.
No, you
them.
phone. You don't inbox.
You phone.
When
them.
something is
Say,
happening,
"I'm
you
really
post."
sorry.
No, but if you don't reach a
past.
person, so for example, if we're putting together a show and we're trying to find someone and we can't reach them on the cell phone number that we have, and we've sent an email and there is no response to the email, you go onto Facebook, you look them up, you hope their privacy settings aren't up, or you go to Twitter, you send them a thing like, please follow me so I can DM you, or you go straight into Facebook and
Why
you
is that
inbox
person
them.
not picking up to begin with?
No, but life happens, guys. I've been sitting here and I've got 14 missed calls. Life happens. So,
Okay, I'm not that important.
Yeah, that's
clearly.
like,
I want to get to your point of going onto Facebook and Googling somebody, because that's the average term, Googling somebody.
Yeah.
How many people, before you go to a meeting, your first point of finding out who this person is goes onto social media? Your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your this. You find out who the person is before you meeting them.
technology has enabled even the things that are supposed to bring convenience into our lives, to some extent, can be an encroachment.
Just like WhatsApp.
Oh, okay, let's talk about WhatsApp groups, because he's dying to talk about his WhatsApp
Well,
group.
let's maybe talk about chat. Okay,
In
so
general.
WhatsApp is a category. Is you know, there's WeChat and there's Facebook Messenger and good old SMS, right?
Well, go from the evolution of chat. The evolution of chat sitting in your bedroom with your chat rooms. Yeah.
WeChat is good for countries where WhatsApp is blocked.
Okay.
So China and those kind of countries, WeChat is a lot better.
So what I find amazing about WhatsApp is the universality of its user experience.
Right.
Like my folks, both my dad's almost 80, my mother's in her 70s. Both of them have missed Facebook largely, you know, missed a lot of, not a lot of social media, but boy can they WhatsApp. What I think is about chat as a whole, whether it's WeChat or WhatsApp, is that it's a very simplified user experience and because of that, it's incredibly sticky, right?
But no, it's not simplified anymore. What is WhatsApp's new status updates? What is that going into? That's going into your social media. That's not going into your chat anymore.
WhatsApp is becoming more and more difficult.
Yes. So now you open WhatsApp and now you go into status updates.
And it even tells you when there's one that's been updated.
Yeah. WhatsApp has gotten me people that I don't know calling me. Because, see, the thing is, you're in certain groups, and those groups, the admin gets other people to join in.
And then they get your phone
But well,
number.
because I work in the entertainment industry, and then they get your number, they see your profile pic, and then they're calling
I
you.
think you have a particular grievance which is relevant and meaningful to you.
what I do, but
it's
yeah.
not a common problem.
Yeah,
For
I
most people,
understand,
WhatsApp is a very low data cost-in way to communicate conveniently.
And don't get me wrong, I love WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I think it makes my life easy.
You just get spammed, which
Yeah, I just get spammed.
because of who you are.
And sometimes I get stuck into groups that I want to leave and I can't
Oh, me
leave.
too. And then when you leave, everyone knows.
No, I
Just
know I
leave,
can't
yeah,
leave.
just leave.
I know I can't leave.
But
Yeah,
isn't
there's
there
nothing-
functionality
You know what I'm talking
where
about,
you-
right?
Where you actually just don't, can't you just, what is it called? You mute the group. So
Yeah, you can
don't
mute it
get
for a
their
year.
messages,
I don't wanna
but
mute
they
them
think,
as well,
they think that you
sometimes.
still see them.
I do not want to follow a conversation between two people
I
who now decide
leave.
this group is their like private conversation and they're having private jokes and going on and on and on and I'm thinking I actually need to work with here it goes
We had a family group, and its sole purpose was for
To
the
do something for that particular
was for
time.
the reunion in October
Yeah,
once a
and
year.
then October passes.
And then there's just days.
Thank you.
Where
Ah.
from 8 a.m. you're sitting on 40 messages. Why?
I understand the
the
fact that WhatsApp can be annoying because it is so easy and acceptable for everyone, right? And the fact that you get inundated by messages shows how good it is.
That's great because you can also
Right.
travel whichever country and you
What
can do
I-
on WhatsApp.
what
You
I
switch
think
off
is
your
really
calls.
And you do
interesting-
WhatsApp calls, yeah.
To talk about the future of technology in social media, chat interfaces, whether it's WhatsApp or WeChat or so on, are becoming a layer on top of social media, right? Where their social media is the archive, right, where you show the picture, you show the experience, usually either as is happening or as it has been, but the chat layer becomes the now interface of that social media. And I think in a world where we are seeing a lot of artificial intelligence and bots, I think a major trend in social media is going to be when robots, when machines join the chat, right?
Yeah.
You know, Facebook Messenger is an early play at being able to, in a chat interface, engage with the social media platform to achieve whatever your personal objectives and goals and interests are.
What would that look like? So just
So it would
to
look
make
like
it
is,
practical.
I'm looking for a great Chinese restaurant in Rivonia. you
Yeah.
know. I would say that in a chat interface on Facebook Messenger.
Right.
Facebook Messenger would then say back to me, a bot. So not a human,
yeah.
a machine will say to me, there are 7 good Chinese restaurants in Rivonia.
Right.
Would you like me to book one?
So we started this whole conversation with saying, okay, well, technology, you've got algorithms, they know everything, blah, 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 and that's why they can give you certain things. Now that we're talking about technology not using those things, we're irritated again.
Yeah, I'm almost like if you want to integrate yourself into my life, and I've enabled that notification and I've decreased my privacy so that you can have that interface, you've got to get it right. So I am holding a higher standard because I don't want to be inundated with things that have nothing to do with me. For crying out loud, I'm trying to lose weight. I don't like these KFC pop-ups on ways. Every second corner to say, there's a KFC 3 kilometers away. I don't want to know. I might just find myself there.
I just think many consumers' expectations around technology are unrealistic. It costs millions of dollars to build something like Waze, right? They have to make their money in some way.
Why don't you just put a price to the app? I would still download Waze at a cost. It has made my life so amazing that I can't imagine life without
But you
Waze.
downloaded it, right?
Yeah,
so
I
you
have
had
it.
an option to not download it.
Exactly.
Exactly. So what did you expect?
So
No, but I
you-
don't want KFC
But they
every
ask you-
second.
they ask
No,
you-
That's why
but-
I'm saying you've been unreasonable. You're,
No, but I am an example of what consumers want. And whether it's unreasonable or not is neither here nor there. Brands need to now serve and engage with this level of being unreasonable.
That's why I'm saying, like, on the one hand, we're complaining that brands know too much about us and we might filter things. On the other hand, we're saying, but I want the brand to know it.
Exactly, and for
I
you
want
to
the brand-
download,
No, but I
when
think
you
it's
download
some
these apps, they
brands.
even ask you.
Yeah.
That you,
I
do
think
you mind if we,
okay,
you
they
can
don't ask
share
about
your...
the KFC. They just ask if you want the app, and then you say yes, and then it comes with
But even your
everything.
personal information, when you want it at the time, you say yes, yes,
But there
yes.
is a point. A KFC pays for those ads, and that's how you get Waze for free.
So let's talk about social targeting then, right? Because it's all about social targeting and targeting the right people. So you've got your different targeting on Facebook. You can target your reach. You can target your different profile targeting, whatever it may be. So who educates that brand? Who educates that KFC at the end of the day, it's not good for you. I mean, you get an agency, you go, sorry, they won't go, sorry, KFC, we're not going to target anyone because it's not good for you. So at the end of the day, you still have to target somebody.
Why don't we change tack and talk about something like virtual reality or augmented reality in social media?
I had that experience. I had that experience
I pushed the button.
2 weeks ago on a roller coaster. Now, I'm never going to walk into Gold Reef City and go on that huge roller coaster, but I did last week in the boardroom. And I actually felt like I was on one.
Okay.
Nice. Chat, a lot of Snapchat's filters are examples of augmented reality. Okay.
What people would have
applying a
crowns,
digital
whatever.
layer to a real thing, right? So I got my face looking like a kitten. I'm not actually a kitten. It's just, so that's augmented reality, right? So, and the future of that is that you're going to be wearing a pair of spectacles, a pair of glasses, that is going to project a whole bunch of information and digital layers onto the real world. So, have you watched Minority Report?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good example where you're walking around and through your actual vision, either through say contact lenses or glasses, you're looking and seeing information to say, this is Sabu. He's aged this and this and this. So I can look at you and I get all this data about you.
But
the kind
first test failed though.
Pardon?
From a Google Glasses perspective, which was very close to launching.
Yes.
It's now been
So
restarted.
Yeah, Google Glasses have been binned, but that doesn't mean
That's not the direction.
That's just
we're
an
heading in.
application of technology or of a certain type of technology. What I'm interested in is augmented reality is going to become a major feature within social media in the future, because a lot of Snapchat's engagement model is based on AR, right? I can apply a filter to a photo to a video, right? And as soon as you add in filters to your video or to your image, that's augmented reality. You are adding a digital layer to a real thing, a video of us sitting around having lunch, right?
Yeah.
So that's AR. VR is not based in the real world. It is you're putting on a headset and you are suddenly on Mars.
So today's lunch has been both educational as well as controversial. We started off with paid Twitter, and I don't think we let loose on the controversy right until the end. So as we begin to wrap up the show, we're going to just quickly go around the table and maybe get each person's key points, the thing that you probably want the viewers to walk away with as you reflect on the conversation that we've had on the influence of technology on social media.
I think what stood out for me was the paid Twitter. I think it's very important for us I know we live in quick times, we can't verify facts, but don't believe everything you hear or see on Twitter or Facebook.
Or
just
anywhere else.
verify it, check your facts. I think
But you said yourself
that's my
though
thing.
that it's so difficult when you're
It's
on a
difficult.
deadline.
It's difficult when you're on a deadline, but don't give people the wrong information.
Okay.
I think that's my issue, is that you're feeding people information which might be incorrect.
Yeah.
Be woke.
Be woke. Oh, please don't use that term.
I thought I was being cool.
Oh no. Like woke is so tired, like I can't even begin to talk to you, but anyway.
Clearly I'm a middle-aged white guy.
Your final impressions.
So I really am interested in the topic of social media intelligence being a force for good in the world. I think that's a really interesting thing, that how can we use the fact that a large proportion of the world's population are online and talking about things and using that information to develop both business strategy and government policy in order to create a world that is fairer and more relevant to us humans who live on it, all right? Instead of it being this really superficial thing where we share our pictures of our cat or the cake, I would love it when businesses and governments look to social media to mine intelligence to help them be a better organization or a better politician or a better government. I'm really interested in that space, and I think for me, that's where I'd like us to apply technology and apply our unique human abilities to get to the fact that when my kids grow up, they're going to be in a better place because we are adapting our strategies and our technologies to fit what they want from the world.
I think there's a lot of I mean, if we had 2 more hours and a dinner coming and more wine, we could have discussed this a lot further.
We can arrange that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sorry. There's a lot in terms of social media and technology and the two, and there's a lot of pros and cons, and I think there's a lot of things we haven't gotten to in terms of things like geolocation, when we're talking about rhino poaching, for instance, which is a really bad thing. We haven't spoken about the fact that, yes, we're all good people sitting around the table, as far as I could see from my check that I did earlier. But a lot of bad people are also using social media, and they're also using that technology to infiltrate your life. So I think we had a good discussion. I think there's a lot that came out, but this is definitely something that could be explored further in terms of how it's actually affecting us, and who's using social media and the technology within social media and who isn't using it correctly, and how we can make it better.
I think for me what stood out was the last part that he was sharing about augmented reality and virtual reality. Like, I'm one person who, if I don't understand something, I'm not afraid of being embarrassed. I'll ask a question, and having asked him a question and him explaining, I've got a sense of an idea of what augmented reality is versus virtual reality, where as an entrepreneur, as a social entrepreneur who wants to make the world a better place, it's always nice to want to have all this information or process information and be as creative as possible, try and come up with ways in how one can contribute in changing the world. And understanding where the world is going with augmented reality is, whether you like it or not. I mean, I remember a lot of the things that we watched on The Matrix over a decade ago are happening right now. Exactly what he's saying, what's happening on Snapchat, and where the real world is mixed with, you know, people have got crowns that are not actually really there. How does one really take advantage of that space and become creative as an entrepreneur to make the world a better place? And I think I've taken that away with me, and I'm going to be telling a lot of my young people that I work with, or a team of developers, to, you know, think around that way over the next couple of years, come up with some things or solutions to try and contribute.
Imagine taking a pupil in the township school and giving them the reality of being in a world-class laboratory.
Yeah, because they always say that, right?
And that's such a good example, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you could be sitting in Soweto and be in MIT.
Exactly, because
you know, and that is achievable today.
Definitely. I didn't think that I'd speak at Harvard last month. Speaking at Harvard, I got an invite to go. I'm speaking at MIT next month. But Albert Einstein says it very well, that, you know, like, imagination is more powerful than knowledge. You can only know so much, but imagination, you can imagine it. Yeah. And I think that's the reason why augmented reality, you know, is fascinating me right now.
It's not really having conclusions, but having the unknowns. And I think that's what social media is about, is the unknown. Is that as a brand, we are not driving conversation anymore, we are actually listening. And we are coming up with ways to excite people, to encourage communication, and to encourage intellect, and hoping that just as a person and as a community we can grow, and hoping that as a brand we can grow with you and not be forgotten, to stay current, to stay relevant, and to stay top of mind. And I think social media has a very big importance as a brand to keep relevance in the consumer's mind.
And I think the conversation has been exactly that. For me, I think we opened or tap into new possibilities today. In the process of venting frustrations about current technologies and current platforms, we begin to shape a new set of questions and begin to explore new what-ifs. And I think that's been the beauty of this conversation. So thank you everyone for all your contributions and what you brought into the show. And that's how we wrap another episode of Masters of Innovation. It's been absolutely fantastic. It's been both educational as well as scandalous at times. But if there's more than anything that I could say about the show, is that we've asked a different set of questions, and we have begun to think of new data points that aren't part of the reality that we speak of and see and live every day. Thank you so much for making the time to join us. From myself, Nosy Pombanja. Until next time, goodbye.